Watch this.
2,000 new jobs are forecasted for the new Micron fabrication plant. But how do you fabricate places to live when the Boise housing market has been hotter than a high desert summer? Maybe the answer is outside the Treasure Valley. You know, there's one way to help pay for Idaho's public education system: by selling off public land. It happened again today with a piece of a very popular and now private Payette Lake landmark. The name is nearly as popular as its architecture. You could once rent a room there for $2 a night. Well, now those rooms go for nearly $400 a month. We take a look back at the Idanha Hotel when they were moving out the old to make room for the new. It will be the largest private investment in state history. Micron's $15 billion memory chip manufacturing plant will likely have an impact besides its footprint in southeast Boise. We're told thousands of jobs will be created, both in building it and then running it. So where are all those people going to live? Aren't we already in a housing crunch here? Well, this is where cities outside the Treasure Valley come in. The city of Mountain Home and its mayor, Rich Sykes, announcing his town is open for business, at least in the affordable housing business. He wants his city to be the new home of any new Micron employee moving to the Gem State. Here's Andrew Bartline.
Micron's brand new $15 billion manufacturing fab should open in 2025, which begs the question, where will these 2,000 new Micron employees live, while the city of Trees already faces a housing crisis? One answer could be 40 miles southeast on I-84.
We definitely make sure that Mountain Home has that hometown feel, but we're not afraid of change.
Mountain Home Mayor Rich Sykes embraces Micron commuters because he sees the writing on the wall, where the town must bloom where you are planted so they can share their community canvas where the mountains are calling.
We have that hometown feel. Everybody knows everybody. Even with the influx of all the new people come here, we still treat everyone like their family.
But Mountain Home is facing problems of their own.
The number one thing that's preventing us from hiring people is affordable housing.
Chuck Ciccarelli founded the Inventive Group.
So we believe we're Mountain Home's best kept secret.
The Inventive Group is a manufacturing company for off-road, fishing, and towing gear. Their employment is capped at 108, only because that's all they can get these days.
We just hired another engineer who was trying to move to Mountain Home, and we want him living here, and just couldn't find anything remotely in their price range. So he ended up taking a house over by Meridian. So now he's commuting.
And before outsiders come to town, Ciccarelli wants solutions for the problems the town is already facing today.
And I think you need to take care of the people here before you take care of those. I mean, I don't want to give up one of our employees' homes for somebody to commute to Micron.
These concerns aren't lost on Mayor Sykes.
Yes, we're feeling the same issues as everywhere else, but we're trying to be proactive instead of a reactive city.
Sykes' overarching goal is to make Mountain Home an attractive place to live.
We are doing the smart growth with approving as many dwelling units as possible, but still continue to make sure that we do it smartly. For Mountain Home, it's the wave of the future isn't just 1 acre lots with all this grass and all that. So I think the younger generation or the different generations want options.
I believe Mountain Home is ready to meet the moment.
Because the moment can swing either direction, where you either push people away or you bring them in.
Idaho is only going to stay Idaho if we can hang on to our most precious commodity, which is our children. Right now, I have friends in Boise who I grew up with, who I went to school with, that they can't live in Boise, and that's where they grew up. They've been priced out, and there's no greater tragedy than that. So we understand that if we can't diversify our housing, if we don't do anything different, then the soul of Mountain Home, what really makes Mountain Home, its people, its children won't be here anymore.
Now that's a big piece of it. You heard him say at the end there, the development director of the city here in Mountain Home. What are we doing that's different? Now a big piece of that is offering broadband internet. Some of these new subdivisions that are popping up, it's going to be hooked up into the house, a fiber optic cable, the same as like a utility where you have water, garbage, it's going to be the same. So that's something that Mountain Home is trying to do differently to attract some tech-minded people. But the overarching goal of this, Brian, is to provide amenities to make Mountain Home a place where people want to live, because their biggest concern is that kids grow up in Mountain Home. they get a college education at Boise State, University of Idaho. Maybe they go out of state, but they might realize they don't want to come back to Mountain Home because it doesn't have the amenities, the housing, the options that they want. So they want to at least provide people a reason to stay or at least come back. That's their big goal. And of course, it's going to attract outsiders as well. They say both can be true and both can be successful at the same time. Brian?
Yeah, to make that 45-minute commute at least worth it, because that's going both ways every single day. It's going to be a little tricky. And I know, Andrew, we talked about this before when it comes to affordable housing for the airmen on base there. Mountain Home was having a tough time with that for a bit. And now they're trying to just kind of solve both problems. Is that kind of how they're hoping to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the phrase is a non-zero sum game where both sides kind of win. They think there can be a compromise there. They can help everybody out. A rising boat can lift all tides. They can provide options that people moving into the area can find success with and thrive in. But these could be options where people who are native to the area can also find. So, you know, single family homes, multi-family units. He even used language like high-rise condos. You know, they're open to all options and they're exploring all options because they say different people want different options. They want to provide that.
All right, they got a few years to kind of figure it out as well. All right, thank you very much, Andrew. So that's how this new facility is affecting areas outside of Boise, or possibly affecting areas outside of Boise. Anytime new construction comes up in conversation, there's always a concern about the resources to sustain it or the impact it will have on it, like on our infrastructure and our environment. The day Micron announced it was building a $15 billion memory chip fabrication plant, we got this message from Patty. The new Micron plant will consume millions of gallons of water and create more pollution to our valley. Why are these issues not being addressed, says Patty? Well, let's work backwards on this one, shall we? As far as pollution goes, Micron claims despite being the largest private employer in the valley, it emits less than 1% of the pollution in the Treasure Valley. This doesn't account for employees who drive to work since, well, that is the major factor in air quality in the valley. So what about the chemicals used in the manufacturing process? Well, Micron says they've reduced their chemical waste over the years by finding and using cleaner substitutes, accounting for an 80% drop in emissions, they say. Same with the cleaning chemicals. As for anything left over, they take a portion of what's left over from the fabrication process and they send it to another company entirely that uses that to make a cleaning compound, kind of a cycle there. Is it working? Well, in 1997, they received the Environmental Evergreen Award for their commitment to pollution prevention. I know that was a long time ago, but their website is riddled with nearly 20 environmental awards they've won over the years since, including for water sustainability. Okay, so what about that water? The claim Micron will consume millions of gallons of water. Well, Patty, the plant says they use 3 million gallons of water each day right now. And that covers the entire 300,000 square foot research and development facility, which includes the $3 billion fab already there. They use that water for things like climate control, food prep, drinking, sanitation, irrigation, and of course, mostly manufacturing. Micron says they get their water from two sources. That'd be the deep ground water wells, the first of which were found by one of the company's founders, Ron Yonke, who went out there with a witch and just kind of found a pretty good sized well. That was back in the late 70s, early 80s. The second source, the Boise River, 4.5 miles away. They also collect some rainwater that gives them about 5 million gallons a year, which I know is a little drop in the bucket, but it is something. But here's the other thing. Micron claims they reclaimed 75% of their processed water for immediate industrial reuse. And they also say they recycle 75% of all the water they use total, with the goal of 100% by 2030. And in this new plant, that's the goal, to get to 100% reuse, recycle, and restoration of water. As for restoration, the company says they take some of that water and they treat it on site to drinking water standards and then return it straight to the aquifer below them. And they say from 2001 to 2019, those groundwater levels have risen 20 feet. All right, how much water has Micron recycled? Just in 2021, they say, they claim the Southeast Boise plant has reused, recycled, and restored 63 million cubic meters of water, or more than 16.5 billion gallons, which is the equivalent of about 25,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. How about this perspective? A dairy cow drinks 30 to 35 gallons of water each day. They need all that water to produce milk. Micron uses 3 million gallons of water a day, they say, or the equivalent of about 100,000 dairy cows if they drink 30 gallons a day. As of last count, there are about 635,000 dairy cows in Idaho. So it would seem Idaho's dairy industry uses 6 times the amount of water as Micron technology. So to be fair, this new $15 billion plant is supposed to have a 600,000 square foot clean room, which is twice the size of the entire current facility. So yeah, water is obviously going to go up, or the use of it. But again, with the goal of 100% water recycling by the end of this decade and 100% renewable electricity also, water consumption and pollution, well, may not be a problem. All right, there's a new partial owner of Cougar Island on Payette Lake near McCall. And if you'd ventured around Payette Lake anytime, you kind of know where I'm talking about. It kind of sticks out there. The island is visible in a popular spot of the lake and actually has family on it with property on the island leasing a spot there right now. Island is owned by the state, that whole island, but Idaho is looking to sell part of that land, or at least all of it, or maybe all of it, to maximize the financial return as opposed to just leasing it out. How do you sell an island? You do that with an auction. Joe Paris joins me now with kind of how that went down today that happened.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. This afternoon in Eagle, there's an auction to do just that, to buy and sell a piece of property owned by the state of Idaho. So people registered to bid on pieces of Cougar Island or the whole island itself. And we'll get back to that in a minute. But first, how did we get here? Well, in June, Idaho officials voted to sell the 14-acre high-end island in Payette Lake. And Governor Brad Little and 4 other members of the Idaho Land Board, they voted 5-0 to confirm a previous decision that, yes, they wanted to sell this island. Now, the island has 5 designated lots, with 1 lot, as we mentioned, hosting a cabin and a current lease. But why did Idaho take the land to auction? Well, the state constitution requires the land board to, quote, maximize financial return over the long term, benefiting mainly public schools. Now, state land managers have said that Cougar Island is underperforming financially, and selling it is in the state's best interest. Now, critics of the auction, like Valley County commissioners, the advocacy group United Payette, and the Idaho Conservation League, they pushed for a deal to prevent the island from being privatized. Another interesting storyline, the current leaseholder of the lot with the cabin was there today to try and win the auction so they could own the land they're living on instead of leasing it from the state of Idaho. Now, land board members had concerns about the timing of selling the property, with real estate sales appearing to soften recently. So, contrary to what critics wanted, they went ahead with the auction today in Eagle. And here's the moment that one of the 5 parcels went final in auction.
Right now, we're going to get ready to close the auction. I'm going to say going once, going twice, sold lot 2, block 1, 2.52 acres for $2,025,000. And the bidder number is 121. Thank you all for coming, and if you have any questions, please reach out to Emily or myself, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thanks again, and have a great day.
So you heard him there, a little more than $2 million. And the winner of the auction that you saw there a minute ago holding up his placard, that is the current leaseholder, Mr. Lasky. And we've seen your questions around this story over the last several months, wondering, would it be an outsider coming in to buy the property? Well, no, we can tell you that Mr. Lasky, he is an Idahoan, so that answers your questions at home. Now, the other lots today, they didn't sell, and they are different from the lot that Lasky now owns in the sense that most of the island is not conducive to comfortable human living. So proceeds from the auction, they're going to go to the state of Idaho, again, a little more than $2 million, and that's going to benefit mainly public schools. The lots that did not sell today, though, they're still the state of Idaho's. They still own that, and it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Idaho is likely still looking to sell those, but we'll see what that looks like in the coming months. Brian, I know there's been a question out there. You know, Cougar Island, it's been there for a very long time. The state of Idaho has owned this for a long time. So why now? Why are they actually selling this? Well, again, the state believed that with the hot Idaho housing market and the real estate market in recent months and years, that now would be a really good time to try and maximize some of that money. If you've seen some of the headlines lately, the real estate market, the market in Idaho, is seeming to have peaked and go down the other way. So they're trying to maximize funds to benefit public schools here in Idaho, as they're supposed to in the Constitution.
Okay, so the rest of the island, not conducive to public or to human living, as you put it. I mean, people could still buy it and just use it as like camping grounds, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what was outlined in the auctioneer pamphlets and really some of the information given to the public, saying you could buy these pieces of land and they'd essentially be campgrounds. There's only a very few parts of that island that you could have a septic system or you could really have somebody comfortably living there. But there are certainly people that'd be more than happy to, you know, take a canoe over and camp overnight on their own land. So we'll see if someone wants to buy it.
And this is the only a piece of what's being for sale or being auctioned off, or about to, I should say, in that area. There's another island up there, Shellworth Island. Plus, there's There's lakeshore land that is also being auctioned off. None of that went today?
Nope, just that one parcel on Cougar Island.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. Nearly a century after its creation, the Idanha Hotel was getting a makeover, making its move toward the future, but it had to let go of its past first. We'll get to that throwback in a moment, but right now, let's get to your messages. Text us any comments, any questions, or complaints to this number, 208-321-5614. And as always, make sure you include your name and the hashtag, the 208. And stick around. We may share yours at the end of the show. It's recognized as one of the most iconic spots in all of downtown Boise. It's on postcards, it's on pictures. It's certainly unique. The Idanha Building at 10th and Main Streets. When it opened in 1901, it was Boise's tallest building and its most expensive, costing a whopping $125,000, which is about $4.3 million in today's dollars. The French chateau-style 6-story building also had Idaho's first elevator and was used as a hotel for more than 100 years. In 1974, it was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Around the same time, it made the transition from hotel to apartment building. But 23 years ago, almost that century mark, it was sold again and has been used as affordable housing. And almost 23 years ago to the day, John Miller was there when that transition meant redistribution of its antique furniture.
Bet you had no idea, looking at the outside of the Idanha Hotel, but there was so much cool stuff inside the Idanha Hotel.
Entree.
And I had no idea I'd run into my friend John Hansen sorting it all out.
Come on, I'll show you this stuff. Too many keys.
Keys to open rooms 201 and 211,
Okay.
all of the suites,
Okay.
and
Oh, this would be one of those not so sweet.
John has his own term for it.
Artifact mining.
Clarence Darrow suite. He stayed here?
He might still be in the closet for all I know.
Yeah, right on.
Maybe you didn't know.
All right.
Every piece in this room and about 100 others will be up for sale.
That's a serpentine turn of the century china cabinet.
It'll all go for a price. From old cash registers and radios to desks, phones, fans, and fixtures.
Even the radiators?
Even the radiators.
Like John says,
There'll be something for everybody here.
You know, John, I could really see myself in something like this. That was stupid.
I agree.
You know, a lot of people would like to have this job that you got here.
Yeah, I wanted it pretty bad myself.
organizing thousands of these things for upcoming auctions and a tag sale. And now that it's all going,
I wonder where all this furniture came from.
This one came from down the hall.
Oh, as far as you know, huh?
As far as I know.
of course, you never know what might lie behind the next door, but John Hansen's pretty sure.
It's a rare opportunity.
John Miller, Idaho's News Channel 7.
Yeah, Clarence Darrow stayed there. during the Steunenberg trial, the one that killed the former governor here in town. Yeah, he stayed there. So did William Howard Taft. All the big names stayed there back in the day. Not so much anymore. But there are 52 units, rental units, in the building right now, ranging from 380 square feet to nearly 800 square foot, 2-bedroom units. The cost to live there, well, according to apartmentratings.com, rent in the Idanha ranges from about $614 to about $1,300 per month. You ever wonder what was happening 100 years ago? You ever wonder what was happening 100 years ago in Emmett, Idaho?
Here's what's fit to print in the Eminent Index for September 14th, 1922. Dances are banned at city schools. Action taken by new boys. Sound familiar? Dancing in the school buildings were banned. The dance question aroused considerable discussion, but the vote against permitting dances to be held in school buildings was unanimous. Meanwhile, Elks to give dance. It was decided to resume the club's monthly dances during this winter. The first will be given on the last Friday of this month. Harry Clark and Maud Ellsbury were united in marriage on Tuesday. D.H. and John Vanderson and G.I. Guthrie returned yesterday from Bend, where they bought 10,000 head of sheep. Over in East Emmett, Miss Cora Anderson has been enjoying her vacation for the past week or so, and little Eleanor Sullivan was not quite well at last report. In Montour, Ted McRoberts will attend high school in Weezer this term, and R.E. Nolan sat on his front porch Wednesday morning and watched an aeroplane fly over almost near enough to converse with the driver. And smack in the middle of fruit-picking season, Sunday, the slope was the center for fruit buyers on an average of a car a minute. And everything that looked like fruit went like hotcakes.
All right, we got a couple of comments today lamenting the loss of some public land on Payette Lake on Cougar Mountain, like this one from Jack in Boise. I wish the state could have figured out how to rent that island on a short-term basis. Once it's gone forever, says Jack. Well, as Joe pointed out, the state is obligated by the Constitution to get the most bang for their buck when it comes to public lands. And by renting it out may not be the case. By selling it for $2 million pieces or $2 million per parcel, that might be the best way to get the biggest bang for the buck. So that's kind of why they're kind of backed into a corner when the Constitution says you're not getting enough for this piece of land, you need to do more for that. Since the state still owns most of Cougar Island, can you go out there and camp now? Just like you could before, just got to stay off the private sections. I think there were 2 lots, as I understand, that were sold today. So yes, there are still sections of that island that are still available to get to camp on, but just kind of be aware of where you might be in regards to the private part. We'll see you back here tomorrow.